All right, so let's talk about the 4-step cueing process. This is what you want to use with a client when you're trying to elicit change, and most specifically when it's dire and in the moment. You're looking to fix and or adjust something before that movement is completed. Your goal is to catch this on reps 1, reps 2, and to deliver a short, quick announcement to that client specifically to get the changes and adaptations that you want. So let's go through those 4 steps. First thing, use their name. So the name is what's going to naturally snap you into that progression of where things are at. Think about it. You're at a loud party. Everything is happening all around. You can't hear anything. Conversations everywhere. But when you hear that one thing, your name, you're going to be in touch and you're going to draw your attention in. Now, this applies even if you're having a one-on-one client. And the reason being, think about when you're doing a move, you're going through in your head a system and checklist of all the different movements, the breath control, and what you're trying to remember to execute that as best as possible and stay safe. And so your mind is going to be somewhere else. Or we have those clients where they're thinking about work and completely unrelated life circumstances are going through their head and they're not aware. So use that name first. Always brings them in. The second thing that you want to do is you want a really short and quick announcement of what you're trying to have them change. Typically, this works best with 2 words. And that first word oftentimes is going to be what part of the body that you're adjusting. So it could be like head, it could be chest, it could be hips. And then you're going to use the movement direction as word number 2. So think about this. If I say Jan, and your name is Jan, you're going to be cued in. And then I'm going to say head back, head back. So simple. They're identifiable as the body part that I want to have a change start from and the direction that I want to have it go into. And so that's going to naturally help me go in that progression. Now here's the thing. You're focused on all these different movement patterns when you're going through. This is why we repeat head back or whatever those 2-word phrases are 3 times. And you want to try and escalate your voice when you're doing it. It is this emphasis that 1, creates energy, but 2, it's the repetition that helps it break through the noise that is going through that person's head for you to actually get to that change. And so by doing so, we're going to get that faster. So think about this. If I'm like, Jan, chest up, chest up, chest up, and I'm bringing that emphasis with me as I am moving towards that client and in that position, creating energy. I've snapped them out of their little world, and then I'm driving that sentence 3 times because then they're like, chest up, chest up. Oh, I got it by that 3rd one. And so now you've fixed it within 1 rep as opposed to 4 or 5 or even a complete set or maybe even never. So we want to use that every single time. Name and then those. The 3rd thing you want to do, if applicable, and you've gotten permission from the client, is now a physical point of contact. Specifically, you're trying to get a physical point where you're trying to get a muscle to engage or where you're trying to elicit that change. So if you're thinking that you want chest up for a deadlift, you're probably really trying to get a flat back, which ultimately means you're trying to turn on some lats to have them move better through that movement. So if I'm able to touch that lat as I'm going or poke both of their lats, I know that now I poke where I want things to naturally tighten up, but it elicits the verbal change that I've already given them or giving them even better simultaneously to get mind-muscle connection to happen from my cueing. And so I want to always use as much physical contact to drive that adaptation from that client as possible, and I want to do it safely. You want to try as much as possible to use the backs of your hand, your knuckles, the side, your elbows. Anything that is not open palm is going to always be a much safer and responsive type of cue. The less you can be palms open, just the better it's going to be for that client, right? And then the 3rd thing we want to do is validate. So you've given them the name, you snapped them into reality, you've given those cues and it's escalating verbally. Now you've given that physical contact to make sure that they know exactly where you're at. And now we either want to say, good job, that's it, that's coming along, that's what we want. Some form of validation so that they know that their body now is going in the right direction, especially if they have more reps to actually complete. Now I do want to challenge you, be aware to not use good job, that's great, if it truly isn't. It's okay to say, there we go, we're coming along, that's what I like to see, right? When we are trying to reach a level of adaptation, but we haven't gotten there yet. because we wouldn't want to falsely confuse them when they go somewhere else and they're like, I've been told I'm great at this movement pattern, when there may be still several pieces that we want to work on. We're just working on one cue at one time to develop that change, to make sure it sticks before we go on to the others, right? So those are those ITMs, the in the moment cues that you want to try and always give to every single client as much as you possibly can.